I stood at the edge of the grand ballroom, my hands trembling slightly, not from nerves, but from anger barely contained. The chandeliers glittered like 1,000 stars above, the orchestra played a soft melody, and the guests sipped champagne, unaware that before the night ended, a secret buried deep would explode like a grenade in the middle of my daughter's perfect wedding. Because I, Grandpa Thomas, was done staying silent, and the groom, that smug, polished young man who just called me low class behind my back, was about to learn what true humiliation feels like. It all started 2 years ago when my daughter, Emily, brought home a man named Jason. Expensive suit, slick smile, a voice smooth as butter. He reeked of self-importance. "Dad, this is Jason," she said proudly. "He's a financial consultant." Jason extended his hand to me, but his eyes scanned me like I was a stain. I wore my usual plaid shirt and old suspenders, clothes from my years running a local hardware store. Not fancy, but honest. His handshake was limp, his smile fake. "It's a pleasure to meet you, sir," he said, but his tone told a different story. From that day on, Jason never hid his disdain. He mocked my modest home, sneered at my old pickup truck, and once joked that my daughter must have inherited her taste in men from someone else. I ignored him, for Emily's sake. She was happy, and that's all that mattered. Or so I thought. Fast forward to the wedding day. The ceremony was lavish, held in one of the city's grandest hotels. White roses, a string quartet, crystal chandeliers. My late wife would have loved it. I was proud of Emily, though a part of me couldn't help thinking she was marrying the wrong man. As I helped adjust her veil, she smiled at me, eyes glistening. "Dad, thank you for everything. You made this possible." I squeezed her hand. "Anything for you, sweetheart." But what she didn't know was that I had made this wedding possible. Literally. I'd sold the small hardware shop I'd built from nothing to help cover the costs she couldn't afford. Jason didn't know that either. At least, not yet. During the reception, I went to get some fresh air. As I passed near the corridor leading to the groom's lounge, I overheard laughter, Jason's voice. "Can you believe her, old man?" he snickered to his best man. "That guy looks like he walked straight out of a thrift store. If Emily hadn't begged me, I wouldn't even let that low-class man sit at the family table." The words sliced through me like glass. The best man laughed. "Well, he's her dad." "What can you do?" Jason smirked. "Doesn't change the fact he's an embarrassment. Honestly, once we move, I'm making sure Emily cuts him off. The guy doesn't fit in our world." For a moment, I froze. My throat burned with rage and heartbreak. Low class, embarrassment. The same man whose education, job, and life I'd sacrificed for dared to mock me on the happiest day of my daughter's life. But anger turned to cold resolve. I knew something about Jason, something he thought was buried. And tonight, I'd make sure everyone knew it. You see, 3 months before the wedding, I'd gotten a strange phone call. A woman's voice trembled on the other end. "Is this Mr. Thomas?" "Yes," I said. "I think you should know. The man your daughter's marrying isn't who he says he is." She sent me documents, proof that Jason had once been arrested for embezzling money from a company where he worked under a different name. He'd taken a plea deal, changed his identity, and started over. I didn't tell Emily. I wanted to, but she was glowing, full of dreams. I promised myself I'd let it go if he treated her right. But now that he'd called me low class, that promise was broken. When the MC called for the toasts, I stood up, tapping my glass. The room fell silent. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, smiling. "As the father of the bride, I'd like to say a few words." Emily smiled warmly at me from across the table. Jason nodded stiffly, clearly wishing I'd sit down. I cleared my throat. "I'm not a rich man. Never have been. I ran a small hardware store for 40 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. I may not wear fancy suits or drive luxury cars, but I believe a man's worth isn't measured by his clothes. It's measured by his integrity." Jason shifted in his seat. His smile faded slightly. I continued, Some people here might think I'm low class. And that's fine, because I'd rather be low class with honor than high class with secrets. A murmur rippled through the guests. Jason stiffened. Emily looked confused. "What are you talking about, Dad?" she whispered. I turned toward Jason, my eyes cold. "Jason, or should I say James Miller? Does that name sound familiar?" The color drained from his face. "Because that's the name you used when you were charged with embezzling $200,000 from your previous employer in Chicago." Gasps filled the room. Cameras and phones went up. "Don't believe me?" I said, pulling an envelope from my pocket. "Here's the court record. You changed your name and moved here right after your plea deal." Jason shot up from his chair. "That's a lie. This is slander." But the best man's shocked face said it all. He knew. Emily's lip trembled. "Jason, is this true?" He stammered. I can explain. It's not—" "Explain what?" I cut in. "That you lied to my daughter? Built your whole life on deceit? Or that you were planning to cut her off from her family once you got access to her inheritance?" The ballroom erupted into chaos. Guests whispered. The photographers clicked furiously. Emily burst into tears and ran from the table. Jason tried to follow, but security, summoned by the hotel manager, blocked his way. I just stood there, holding my glass steady. "You called me low class, son," I said quietly. "But looks like the only thing lower here is your character." That night, the wedding didn't continue. Emily called it off before midnight. Days later, she came to my small house, still in shock but grateful. "Dad, I can't believe I almost married him." "You saved me?" I hugged her tight. "No, sweetheart. You saved yourself. I just helped you see the truth." She smiled through her tears. "I'll never doubt your instincts again." A week later, the news outlets picked up the story. Groom's criminal past exposed at his own wedding. Jason disappeared from town shortly after. I didn't care where he went. Sometimes people mistake kindness for weakness. They think quiet men like me won't fight back. But that night proved one thing. Even the smallest flame can burn down the biggest lie. Moral: never judge a man by his clothes or his bank account, because respect isn't bought. It's earned. And sometimes the low-class man you mock might just be the one who holds your entire life's truth in his hand.